G'day guys, Mike with the Outer Circle, and today we're looking at the Iron Hands. Now, I think the Iron Hands in Heresy 2.0 are definitely one of the stronger legions. Probably right at the upper end of the middle tier. Up there with legions like the Death Guard or the Night Lords. Obviously, some legions are easier to play than others. Some have a higher skill threshold. The Iron Hands do not have a very high skill threshold, let's be honest. Because their legion trait, the Medusas Scales, is very, very easy to apply. It's basically everything that's not a vehicle. All shooting against them is at -1 strength. So missile launches become strength 7. That means they can't instant kill your basic infantry. So anything with feel no pain is also going to get their feel no pain rolls all the time. Really, really strong. It's going to affect your dreadnoughts. So dreadnoughts are going to be functionally immune to bolt gunfire. Strength 3 will not wound toughness 7. So it creates this really strong resilience against shooting. However, there is no additional resilience in close combat and no bonuses to close combat. As an aside, their vehicles have It Will Not Die 6+, but it stacks, and there are ways of getting it to 5+ very easily for the Legion. Now, their advanced reaction, the Gorgon Spite, is essentially an Overwatch reaction, but the difference between this and regular Overwatch is you get to double the amount of shots you fire, only your weapons get hot. It's not a bad reaction, actually, and depending on the type of weapon you use, it could be really worth its weight. I think of heavy support squads, Legion heavy support squads using this and just saturating an enemy unit that's charging them with fire. It's probably worth the trade-off to attempt it. Moving on from there, we get to the Warlord Traits. So, Hell's Heart, or from Hell's Heart, which is the Loyalist-only Warlord trait. The Warlord and his unit are going to cause Fear 1. And if your Warlord is killed, then he automatically inflicts D6 wounds on the unit that killed him. If it's from shooting, it's with his shooting weapon. And if it's from close combat, it's with his melee stat line. So if he's got a Thunderhammer, for example, it'll be Thunderhammer stats. If he has a Combi Bolter, it'll be Combi Bolter stats. How that works for range, it doesn't say anything about there when it comes to the range of his attack. How that works for if he uses the Combi Melter part of his Combi weapon, it doesn't say. So, not the sort of best worded trait I've ever seen. It also doesn't say what happens when it comes to several other things in the Iron Hands rules, but we'll get to those. Also, this army can make an additional reaction in the assault phase, worth noting. The Eye of Vigilance is their trader-only Warlord trait, and all models in the unit that the Warlord joins get preferred enemy loyalist special rule. In addition, once per battle, when controlling player is reacting, the Warlord and his unit may make a single reaction without expending a point from their reaction pool. It's not too terrible. They can make multiple reactions because of this, but they can't do more than one per phase on the same unit. Silver Iron Will is the last of their Warlord traits. A Warlord with this trait, and all models in any unit he has joined, are never affected by any special rule or effect that lowers a characteristic, including Fear and Radphage, or due to losing an assault where the enemy has inflicted more wounds. In addition, an army whose Warlord has this trait may not make reactions during the movement phase, but may make an additional reaction in either one of the opposing player's shooting or assault phases if the Warlord lost, but the army may make reactions in the movement phase as normal in any appropriate phases after the Warlord has been removed as a casualty. This is incredibly poorly written as a rule, because it doesn't have a cap. It says all models in any unit he has joined are never affected by any special rule or effect that lowers a characteristic. It doesn't say this is Fear, Radphage, etc. It's including Fear, Radphage, so using them as examples. That means you could say anything that lowers a characteristic, such as difficult terrain. Doesn't lower your characteristic. It could be wounds. You take wounds in close combat. Well, they're a characteristic value, so you don't suffer a wound on your models. Very, very poorly written rule, I think. But please, feel free to disagree with me in the comments below. Now, Rites of War. They've got 2 Rites of War, the Company of Bitter Iron and the Head of the Gorgon. I think the Company of Bitter Iron is by far the better of the 2. And I think that the Head of the Gorgon is kind of a miss in this edition. Anyway, the Company of Bitter Iron, you get to take Medusa Immortals as troops, and they also become line. Very important there. All models in the detachment using the Rite of War that have both the Legiones Astartes Iron Hands and Bitter Duty also gain Hatred Traders. Bitter Duty is... it's just a rule some units have, and it's in the main special rules section of the Legiones Astartes book, not in the entry for the Iron Hands, so it can be a bit of a fun one to try and find, but it's only units with that rule can join themselves. That's it. That's the limitation of the special rule. You can also give it to your characters for free. So, Medusa Immortals, for example, come with Bitter Duty, therefore they can only be joined by characters which also have Bitter Duty special rule. So it's only going to be Medusa Immortals and independent characters with that rule that are actually affected by it. Now, limitations, Loyalist only, fine. And an army with this detachment using this Rite of War may not include Ferrus Manus. Okay. Yeah, so very good Rite of War. Medusa Immortals we'll get to later on, but taking them as your troops' choices, they are an excellent choice. And because they are also scoring, you don't lose anything out in doing so. Hatred on your units, it's a good little buff. Yeah, just a nice, tidy little Rite of War. Very thematic, really cool. Now, the Head of the Gorgon. All models with the infantry type in the detachment get stubborn in their own deployment zone. Infantry may exchange flamers for graviton guns or graviton shredders for 15 points per model. That's very pricey. They'll be fantastic at killing dreadnoughts, fantastic at killing vehicles, but a very, very pricey choice. You may take Castellax as an elite's choice in the detachment, and they'll gain, it will not die 5+, but they get no benefit from being Iron Hands. Just, no, they're not very good. Don't do it, guys. Castellax are a far cry from the previous edition, so unless they radically change something in the Mechanicum book versus what has been revealed so far, or the Mechanicum leaks, yeah, no. Don't do it. You're paying a lot of points for units which are just flat out inferior in so many ways to the previous incarnations. In fact, you'd be better off taking box dreadnoughts or using the models and giving them box dreadnought stats. They're that kind of bad. Iron Fathers and Legion Tech Marines can take Cortex controllers for plus 15 points each. You're only going to do that if you're controlling Castellax Automata, so don't waste your points doing it. Any model with the vehicle unit type in the detachment gets the Outflank special rule. I don't recommend doing that. The rules as currently written in this edition, you have to place markers down on the table. When you place that marker down on the table for your Outflank, it just gives the enemy a chance to put infantry units or anything like that in the way to block you from entering the board. And because they're vehicles, they don't have a way of... They're so big, it's very hard to get around that kind of roadblock. If the vehicle can't fit onto the board, then it doesn't get to enter play. And you cannot do a ramming attack or anything like that, so the vehicle just simply can't enter play if someone is smart with their placement towards the edge of a board. So it's a very risky move to pull off. And it could be entirely innocently as well that a person does it to you. That's the other thing here. Someone could just have a unit that's by that side of the board for whatever reason. They're on that board edge. Maybe they're moving around a piece of terrain or whatever, and then your outflanker tries to come on, and actually, because it's a Spartan or something, it's such a big hull, you can't physically fit it onto the board, therefore it can't enter play. Yeah, it sucks. Limitations on the Rite of War. You can only take a single fast attack. Not the biggest nerf in the world. Fast attack is generally the least taken choice in Legion armies. In fact, in all armies. Heavy support is usually the most taken choice. And any detachment using this Rite of War may not seize the initiative. They can go first, but they can't seize the initiative. So pretty hit and miss Rite of War. Don't really rate it. I think it can be made to work, but I don't really rate it overall. I think the Company of Bitter Iron, definitely a really good Rite of War. Now, the Armory of the Iron Hands is actually very big compared to some other legions. So, first of all, Iron Father. A very expensive upgrade to your Praetors, 65 points. But for that, you're getting Battlesmith, 3+ for repairs. Really strong. You're getting Feel No Pain, 5+. You get a Machinator Array. You get a Cyber Familiar, so +1 to your invulnerable save. But you can't take a jump pack or a jet bike. Not really any kind of bike. Not really a big downside at all. You're going to get extra attacks from that Machinator Array. You're getting 3-up invul if you're in Cataphracti. You're getting a 4-up if you're in Tartarus, or if you're in Power Armor, or if you're in Gorgon Terminator Armor, because Gorgon is a Cataphracti upgrade. So you could take a Gorgon Armored Iron Father, technically. For 65 points, is it worth it? Well, let's think. The Cyber Familiar alone is 20 points. A Servo Harness is usually around the 15 to 20 points mark as well. So there's 40 points right there. Feel No Pain. Debatable on a single character, but probably worth around 10 points. So you've made up 50 points there. It's on the borderline. It's probably a little bit more expensive than it's worth, but it's still really good. It's still really good. Yeah, I would definitely say it's good. The Blessed Auto Simulacra. So this is a 10-point upgrade. You can give it to any of your vehicles, and they get It Will Not Die 6+, which of course stacks with your Legion trait for vehicles, so it becomes It Will Not Die 5+. So a 30% chance that you're going to recover a hull point or a damaged weapon or anything like that on your vehicles. Very handy. And Cyber Familiar, of course, as I said, +1 to your invulnerable save, up to a maximum of 3+. Costs 20 points though. Very expensive. It used to be like 10 points, so it's doubled since the previous edition. Iron Hands Gorgon Terminator Armor. You're looking at Tartarus stats on Cataphracti though. It's very specific that it's Cataphracti Terminators, so your movement 6. You got that reduced movement. But you also will have the heavy rule. So it's giving you that, but you go to a 5+ invulnerable save, and you gain Feel No Pain 5+. It's good. If you are attacked by an enemy unit, whether they shoot at you, whether it's a close combat, as long as you make a successful armor save that turn, then you roll a d6. On a 4+, all enemy units with one model within 6 inches of you have to take a blind check. This will affect dreadnoughts, it will affect infantry, it's good. It used to be that it would affect you and it would affect allied units. Not anymore, just enemy units. And you're immune in Gorgon Terminator Armor to the effects of the blind special rule. Very nice. Now, Graviton Shredders. Graviton Shredders are range 12. You've got a Assault 2 version and a Pistol 1 version. With Concussive 1, you've got Graviton Pulse and Haywire special rules. These things will absolutely murder vehicles and dreadnoughts. Moritats with Graviton Pistols, for example. Oof. They're just a 5-point upgrade to go to a Graviton Shredder. Any model which is a character unit subtype can exchange a Plasma Pistol for Graviton Pistol at no points cost. I think it's just worth taking it on Squad Sergeants. It's a really handy option. You are pretty much guaranteed to take a hull point off a vehicle with it. You're going to hurt Dreadnoughts with it. It's actually very strong against Dreadnoughts. The Moritat with 2 Graviton Pistols it's terrifying. It will, every time you attempt it, it will kill a Dreadnought. It is probably the best Dreadnought killer in the game. So, yeah, definitely got their place. The Shredders, though, as an upgrade, upgrading a Graviton Gun to a Graviton Shredder, you're already paying a lot of points to do so, so I think it's questionable, its value, but there are certain units where I think it works best, which we'll get to later. Lastly, you have the Armatus Necrotechnica. And this is kind of like the old possessed vehicles of Chaos Space Marines back in like 3rd edition. So it's a 50-point upgrade, and whenever anyone loses a model within 6 inches of it, you roll a d6, and on 6+, the vehicle just gets a whole point back. It also has an aura around it where it essentially drops leadership of all units by -1. So, yeah, 50 points, probably not worth it. I think the only time you'd probably take it would be on something like a War to War or a super heavy tank. So, skimming past the characters as we do, we save them for part 3, we go to the elite units. We start with the Gorgon Terminator Squad. At 200 points, they are kind of a little bit on the expensive side for 5, but every additional model is only 35 points, so the cost of a Cataphracti Terminator. But 2 attacks base, built-in Feel No Pain and Stubborn, leadership 8 on the basic guys and 9 on the Hammer Bearer. Gorgons also have the ability to take Graviton guns as their sort of heavy weapon for the squad instead of, say, an autocannon or a plasma blast gun or a heavy flamer. So my recommended way is to use Gorgons as just a straight replacement for Legion Terminators. Gorgons are not the elite Legion Terminator, though, that you can just go throwing into other elite Legion Terminators. Gorgons cannot take on something like Dominator Cohort or Fire Drakes in a one-on-one fight. They will lose. But compared to regular Legion Terminators, points for points, you're the exact same points as Cataphracti, but you're gaining you're just getting survivability, basically. Built-in Feel No Pain and Stubborn, you're going to be very, very hard to move from the battlefield. There are so many pinning and morale-reducing things out there. That Leadership 9 Stubborn is so good. If they've got Vexilia as well, yeah, you're doing a lot right. The Graviton guns make them a threat to both vehicles and Dreadnoughts. The ability to hurt Dreadnoughts with those Graviton guns and then charge in, knocking several wounds off them first and delivering the coup de grace. The ability to just dominate with them. Excellent replacement for just Legion Terminators. Then we get to Medusa Immortals. Medusa Immortals, 205 points for 10. Okay, a little bit pricey, but only 18 points per additional model. Over regular breaches, they are actually excellent value because you're paying 3 points per model more, and you're getting Stubborn on Leadership 10, you're getting an extra attack, and you get Feel No Pain 5+. So, really good. And in their options, they can all take Volkite charges, they can all take a Chainsword free, or you can take a Chain Bayonet or Bayonet on your Bolter for 1 or 2 points respectively. And they can also exchange on 1 in 5 guys their weapons for a Graviton gun, Lad's Cutter, Melter gun, or Flamer. And I suggest Graviton guns and then upgrading them to Graviton Shredders. 4 Graviton Shredders on the Medusa Immortal squad will pretty much annihilate any vehicle or dreadnought before it touches your Medusa Immortal squad. And of course, when you take the Company of Bitter Iron Rite of War, you can take these guys as troops and line. So there's that. Sergeant, of course, you can take a Thunderhammer. Of course you can take a Thunderhammer. He's got 3 attacks. They're brutal. Do the math. You're going to give him Artificer Armour as well, because 2+ armor save with Feel No Pain with a 5+ invul in close combat with a Thunderhammer makes the basic squad sergeants in Medusa Immortals almost, but not quite, as good as many Legion characters. Do keep in mind though, like other Iron Hands, weapon skill is only 4, so you're going to suffer if you run into elite units because you're only going to be hitting them on 5s in close combat. The true gift of this Legion as a whole is just durability. Durability at range. You can take the shooting fight to your enemies because you hold up better in the shooting fight. So although your enemies may shoot things more accurately thanks to their high ballistic skills, you are the stronger Legion at the end of the day when you compare the two. Anyway, that's it for the Iron Hands. Really strong Legion, upper middle tier, and like I say, it's the simplicity of use which makes them upper middle tier. For my categorization or ranking of Legions when it comes to their war gear and I don't like the word, but their competitiveness is really down to what kind of war gear have they got? Is there a good variety in there that allows you to do things in multiple phases? Is there simple Legion rules that apply across the board, like a broad spectrum rule? If a Legion's rule is very hyper-situational, so for example, Thousand Suns, their Legion trait only affects the characters in the squad. So if you lose your squad sergeant, you've lost your Legion trait for those squads. And squads that don't have infantry, sergeants, don't have anything, which is all their vehicles. So therefore, it was never going to rate highly because they're just going in with a handicap. Versus Iron Hands in this case, Legion-wide, it's -1 on shooting attacks against you, or you're getting It Will Not Die. It's one or the other, and it's affecting everything. Very, very strong as a trait. And the war gear, and of course, lastly, Specialist Legion units. If you have terrible Legion special units, then you're being handicapped because you're being forced to play with the same tools that other Legions are, but they have one up on you because of their own Legion specialist units. So that's the kicker. Anyway, that's all for me. I'm Mac with the Outer Circle. Look forward to seeing you all on the next episode. See you all then.